they went to the queen to tell her her subjects had no bread. Do you know what she said?
Let them eat cake.
Who took the bomb?
We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people. Good morning, peasants. Welcome to another episode of the Peasants Perspective.
Yes.
So glad to be back with you, the one person listening right now, you today. It's always nerve-wracking at the very beginning of the show, watching people come into the live, because it's like such a barometer on how you're doing as a show. Like, how many people do you have in your live? You know, and it's like when we're under 10, it's like, well, I mean, we're talking about 10 people, you know. And you got these other shows up here. I'm just looking. Glenn Bleck's got 6.1 thousand going on right now. Somebody named Lula, President Lula down in Brazil. I mean, he's got 3.9 million. I guess I shouldn't feel too bad. I mean, even Sean Spicer's pulling 1,000 people right now. You know? So welcome, Pony Boy.
You're the most informed person in America.
Most informed peasant in America. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Looks like we got Moralizes. She's in here. Carlitos. Of course, we got so many of you. This is going to be a really good show today. You always know it's a good show when you can start it out with Dan Carlin. Oh, but you know it's going to be a better show because it's not AI when the sound doesn't work correctly right at the beginning of the show. So let's fix that real quick and get back to old Dan Carlin.
When your identity is your ideology, congratulations, you've officially screwed yourself, because now it's not just an idea, now it's you. And when the idea gets challenged, you don't hear disagreement, you hear an attack. So what do? You build a bubble, a nice, soft, padded little bubble where everyone agrees with you, uses the same words, hates the same people, and claps at the exact right moments. And you will defend that bubble at all costs, even if it makes you sound incredibly stupid. Facts don't matter anymore. Logic's gone. Humor? Dead. Because admitting you're wrong would mean admitting you are wrong, and that's unacceptable. So you double down, louder, angrier, dumber. And that's how you end up defending nonsense like it's sacred scripture, not because it's true, but because without it, you'd have to actually develop personality.
Without your ideology, you'd have to develop a personality. When it comes to politics, you'd actually have to develop good policy, right? So let's think about our red-blue divide, right? Let's not be idiots ourselves defending the foolish, right? And I think we do a pretty good job of just kind of calling it from our perspective. How does this affect me, the peasant? Some things don't affect us.
Right. And looking at fruits.
Yeah, looking at fruits, how does it actually bear out and play out? And being a little bit informed by history, just a smidgen. You know what I mean? Like, human nature hasn't changed much over the last 100,000 years, it seems.
Right.
So J.D. Vance was being asked, well, what would happen if the Democrats gained power? Seems pretty obvious to anybody paying attention.
If the Democrats do win the midterms, is Trump getting impeached again?
I'm sure he'll get impeached. Look, they have nothing to actually run on or govern on. Their entire obsessive focus of that party is they hate Donald Trump.
So they have no policy, and apparently they have no personality. Their only thing is their ideology, which is get Trump.
If they ever get power, are they going to, lower Americans' taxes? No. Are they going to make your life more affordable? No. Are they going to solve the crime crisis? No. What they're going to do is they're going to spend all their time and all of your money trying to get Donald Trump. I think it's ridiculous. That's what they're running on. But the American people are going to make this determination. I think the American people should vote for the people who want to make their life more affordable, who want to make their neighborhoods safer. That's what we're trying to deliver every single day.
Which seems like common sense. So the people that kind of buck against that, they kind of sound stupid, don't they? Right? It's the age of unreason.
I also forgot to mention that we should be critical as well from that earlier discussion.
We should be critical as well, and we should be thinking, right? This is Dr. Melanie.
Well, that's what I mean by critically thinking.
Yeah. So Dr. Melanie Phillips, she's going to explain John Carlin's joke, but in a little bit more sophisticated way. But it really is true, right? When you suspend thinking and rational thought, you end up all over the place. And you're no better than a bunch of people who believe in witch doctors and how many virgins do we throw in the volcano to stop the rain? Or, you know what I mean? Like, you're completely untethered from reason. And this is what we're experiencing in our American zeitgeist.
Truth has become a right-wing concept. You cannot say it, because if you say it, you are considered right-wing. And to be right-wing is to be in league with the forces of evil. It is a Manichaean division between ideologies of one kind or another and those who don't subscribe to those ideologies. And the ideologies brook no dissent because they represent, in the minds of people who promote them, they represent goodness, brotherhood of man, progress, reason, education. And anyone who opposes them is against all good things. So they are not just wrong, they're not people to be argued with, they're people to be removed and silenced, because otherwise you're against all good things. So it's that division between good and evil. And unfortunately, you know, if you stand up against an ideology like, I don't know, so-called anti-racism, which basically says all white people are bad.
Critical theory.
Or critical theory. Or you stand up and say a woman is defined by her biology. So you're against transgender. So, as you know, there's no discussion. You are cancelled. You are removed. You have to be silenced. This dissent cannot be permitted. So we're in what a thinker of a previous age called cultural totalitarianism. No alternative is to be permitted. Now, first of all, that is an assault on individual freedom, freedom of expression and freedom, but it's also a complete repudiation of reason. Because if you say there is nothing that you can say that can dissent from my ideology, and you say you're bringing evidence to oppose me, well, that cannot be the case. If you're denying evidence and reality and thinking and engagement with an idea, then you're denying reason itself. And so the irony is that in an age of supposed reason, we're so rational that we've dispensed with religion. Only idiots have any kind of religious sense because it's not based on reason. That's the thinking. So we're so rational, we've got rid of religion, and yet we are repudiating rationality completely. This is something that doesn't quite add up. So I would say that we are in a new age of unreason. That's what we're in. An age of unreason. That's what we've unleashed. And it's an irony because we've done it under the aegis of being rational. But in getting rid of religion, we have unleashed an age of unreason. And what follows from that is the erosion of freedom, freedom to think, freedom to speak, freedom to act, and a complete confusion about where the limit should be drawn between what I want and what others need.
There it is. What I want, individualism, and what others need, collectivism.
Mm-hmm.
The collective always needs what you have because somebody in the collective is without. So let's just split the baby. You see what I'm saying?
I think it's interesting how collectivism is full of individuals that, you know, in an effort to protect individual freedom, attack individual freedom.
Well, you have to limit free speech to save speech.
I guess it's like the weirdest thing.
Dan Carlin's like, you create a bubble. Human beings, every individual believes they're rational in their own minds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, everybody thinks the crazy decisions they make every day, all their bad choices, in the moment they make them, they're like, I need to make this decision because they, in their brains, do the math on all the variables leading up to that moment. And people make what they consider rational decisions.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever want to sit back and, you know, seek first to understand, then to be understood, one of the 7 habits of effective people, assume that the person making their decisions is rational.
Mm-hmm.
The irate spouse, the uncontrollable child, in their mind, a series of dominoes have happened to get them to wherever they're at. Okay. So individuals think they're rational, but we, looking at other individuals, know they're not rational. Society itself thinks it's rational, but we also know it's made up of individuals who are what? Rationally irrational. Okay. So yes, she's correct when she says in one era, we do away with religion because we got tired of throwing the virgins in the volcano at the behest of the witch doctor, right? In order to stop the weather.
And it wasn't rational.
And so now we've gotten more rational and we've realized that the rain has nothing to do with the volcano. Okay. So now we don't use the witch doctors anymore. We have scientists who have connected the volcanoes to the earthquakes. So now the scientists want us to throw the virgins in the volcano to prevent the earthquakes. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like, it's new regime. It's like new boss, same as the old. You know what I mean? So yes, we can't get rid of reason. Let's listen to a couple Democrats who have become so ideological, they have no personality beyond whatever their talking point is.
We can trot out all of the data
this lady's from Washington State, by the way.
Want to create the sense that there is a bad guy. There is a bad group of people. There are folks who are not among us. There are folks who are other. And I think we should spend a lot more time looking at ourselves, looking at American citizens, looking at white men who are committing violence at disproportionate rates in our country, who are committing crimes at disproportionate rates in our country, including the president of the United States, who is sitting at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, as so many of my colleagues have pointed out. I also want to say, I've heard a lot about the
other people in my bubble who cannot hear any rational thoughts. Like, when Donald Trump lowers prescription drug pricing, basically completely ripping off Bernie Sanders. No, we can't.
It's a lie. It's a lie.
Don't you know that we want insurance companies to be profitable?
Somali donors to political campaigns, we all acknowledge, right? That
by the way, she's got a peace tattoo on her forearm. I love that.
You cannot donate to a political campaign in the United States unless you are an American citizen, right? I'm just going to acknowledge that.
Oh, yeah. Except your campaign has taken money from Somali daycares in Minnesota. And the propriety of their citizenship is in question. Okay, so here's another one. Okay, here's another Democrat.
I think so many things with the modern Republican Party, it's like you're skulking right around the edge of things, but too often your bigotry, the Republican Party's own bigotry, is imprisoning them and keeping them from ever actually doing something that helps, not harms the American people. And this is another one of those instances, right? When it's a person of color, if it's 2 or 3, it's a pattern and the entire community must be indicted. But if it's 100 Republicans, it's just not bad. Neither here nor there, because it's important.
Or fraud is fraud, and it doesn't matter the color of your skin. Okay. Ponyboy says, it's like the admission of being wrong. That you were lied to is why I think a lot of the left still buys into it. That's true. Chantini, good morning. Fraser, being smart doesn't guarantee social or practical wisdom. Very true. And LOL, intelligence and common sense don't always show up together. No, they don't. A lot of these representatives that you see here are very intelligent. Maybe they don't have a lot of common sense.
Some of these videos are
or they have a lot of common sense and they know exactly how to manipulate their constituents.
I just find this to be very cringy.
It's cringy. Yeah, exactly. It sounds cringy. Now, Tim Waltz yesterday said the thing we really don't want to hear: states versus federal government and the word war.
Well, I said this yesterday. We've never been at war with our federal government. I think in this case that the National Guard is their main mission. They have a dual mission. So
Tim Waltz is threatening bringing out the National Guard to fight the federal government. This is going to be great. This is going to be so awesome. We're all defending the indefensible at this point, right? I mean, and we on this show are going to take up for the Insurrection Act because why not at this point? You know what I mean? Like, we have been painted into the corner as well. We're now, seems like common sense is now strong team play. And we're going to break all kinds of rules to restore law and order, like calling the Insurrection Act and stuff like that. Dan Bongino out of back into retirement work, I don't know. Ben Bongino's back. So he's out of the federal government now. And he gave this interview yesterday on his Silverlock. He turned in the Bongino network to Silverlock. So he went on one of his podcasters shows yesterday. And he was talking about all the people that complain and blackpill about the administration.
Endless complaining, then just don't watch. The shows, it's okay. Like, this is a constitutional republic. You're not obligated to listen to my show. Justin, what was the line on the air with Jim? It's not a freaking airport, man. You don't have to announce your departure. Like, you get these black pillars. The thing about black pillars, where everything sucks all the time, is like, well, we're demanding accountability, but you're not great. So am I. That's not, you're endlessly complaining about things you don't know anything about. Like, that's all you do. Like, he'll shut down the border, 10 people across a month. Why wasn't it 0? Okay. Well, can you just acknowledge going from 1 million to 10 is a big deal? That way, and there's a cost to that. And the cost you see is in, polling numbers around the midterm. You can't let this negative vibe constantly set in. That doesn't mean healthy debates about policy are not welcome. Hey, I'm not a big tariff guy. I've said that 1,000 times. Debating policies are fine. I think a lot of the so-called damage from the tariffs was dramatically over-exaggerated. Even people who don't like them having to acknowledge that now. The economy's motoring, 4% growth. But the black pill complaining and whining all the time about the administration, it's just like, man, what team are you on? Holy Moses, man. So you don't have to watch. It's okay. There's a door, go find the freaking exits. Because I don't really give a shit. I'm not here for anybody's money or anything like that. I'm too old.
So it'll be interesting to see how Dan kind of does this now that he's back, because there are some legitimate, valid criticisms against Dan Bongino and Kash Patel. And as a January 6er, I feel that I have standing and entitlement to talk about this stuff. Mm-hmm. Why is Jocelyn Benson still on the January 6th case? Why is this pipe bomber, by all appearances, looks like a patsy? Mm-hmm. Right? There's just zero chance this guy is some kind of J6 mastermind. You know what I mean? Like, he's clearly a patsy or an idiot, or both. Okay. Why that? And why on your birthday? And why after that it was along the lines that you were pointing us to, a Fedsurrection? Why is the Capitol Hill police officer not being looked at more closely? Is she being protected by quote unquote intelligence? After all, she does currently work at the CIA. Mm-hmm. Can you address these things? Maybe he will now that he's back out into the private. I acknowledge, listen, you put a lot of murderers away. You put a bunch of people on the top 10 most wanted list away. Definitely reduced crime stats around the country. Definitely assisted in deportations. Like, win.
Super kudos.
But who brought cocaine into the White House? Tell me more about crooks who shot Trump, and tell me more about J6. Those three things you fell completely short on. We know nothing new about Thomas Crooks. We know nothing new about January 6th other than an autistic black kid that's nearly blind that doesn't walk like the pipe bomber, or was even where the pipe bomber was at when they were placing the pipe bomb because they were in their car, is indicted and sitting in prison. So tell me a little bit more about that, please. Mm-hmm. Right. And tell me a little bit more about, I already mentioned cocaine in the White House, the cocaine in the White House. You had inside whistleblowers. You knew who the person who brought the cocaine is. Why no indictment? Why no coverage of this? Maybe it's coming, maybe it's not. And we've talked about, hey, listen, you can't just come in and clean house. You're left with nothing. We've even talked about this recently with the idea of Venezuela. You can't just come out and fire every DMV worker because they're a member of Maduro's political party, right? Because then who's going to issue the driver's licenses, right? So there's kind of a practicality to all of this. So on one hand, I completely agree with Dan Bongino. Yeah, I don't want to be a black pillar. I don't want to be doom and gloom. Sometimes the content we cover every day feels sometimes a little doom and gloom, but I try my best to always look at the upside. What's the future look like? Can these seeds that are being planted germinate and actually grow into something?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Trying not to get drunk on the hopium, though.
We try not to get drunk on the hopium, and we're definitely not the X-22 podcast that's just spewing military plans and it's all under control. Like, no, yeah. What you see is what you get. Things can go horribly wrong. You could find yourself in prison. The story's not over. Right? There has to be a winner and a loser.
When we start teaching you how to make bullets out of cheaper stuff.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get there. Watching Fallout. Not everybody gets a bullet made with human teeth. No, you're sick. You need to lay down and take some antibiotics. Okay. In great news yesterday, South Park got another win. We saw a massive shift when it comes to American nutrition.
The pyramid doesn't work. We've already tried it.
It's upside down.
What?
The pyramid is upside down.
Turn the pyramid upside down.
You can't be serious. That would put butter and fat at the top of the damn food pyramid. Get the president on the phone. Tell him to have some steak with us.
Get the president on the phone. Tell him to have some steak with that butter. This really happened yesterday, guys. Yesterday, the food pyramid got flipped.
Decisive change in federal nutrition policy made possible by President Trump's leadership and the work of Maha moms and public health advocates who demanded reform. Today, in accordance with President Trump's directive, Brooke and I will release the dietary guidelines for Americans 2025 to 2030, the most significant reset of federal nutrition policy in history. These guidelines replace corporate-driven assumptions with common sense goals and gold standard scientific integrity. These new guidelines will revolutionize our nation's food culture and make America healthy again. For decades, Americans have grown sicker while healthcare costs have soared. The reason is clear. The hard truth is that our government has been lying to us to protect corporate profit-taking, telling us that these food-like substances were beneficial to public health. Federal policy promoted and subsidized highly processed foods and refined carbohydrates and turned a blind eye to the disastrous consequences. Today, the lies stop. The new guidelines recognize that whole, nutrient-dense food is the most effective path to better health and lower healthcare costs. Protein and healthy fats are essential and were wrongly discouraged in prior dietary guidelines. We are ending the war on saturated fats. Diets rich in vegetables and fruits reduce disease risk more effectively than many drugs. Whole grains outperform refined carbohydrates. Added sugars, especially sugar-sweetened beverages, drive metabolic disease, and today our government declares war on added sugar. Highly processed foods loaded with additives, added sugar, and excess salt damage health and should be avoided. As Secretary of Health and Human Services, my message is clear: eat real food.
It seems so logical.
Supermarket just got a lot smaller.
Oh my goodness. That cornfield in Iowa is going to be selling a lot less cornmeal. You know what I'm saying? Holy smokes. The grain industry, like the food pyramid got flipped upside down. We've joked about this. Like hilarious. Like the biggest lie of all is the food pyramid. If you want to get blackmailed, go look at the food pyramid. It's all corporate interests. And it's bad for you. And we are literally dying because of the grains and the GMOs.
I was indoctrinated with the food pyramid from day one.
Oh, he even just said we're going to end the war on saturated fat.
Yeah.
And immediately in my mind, I went to, well, certain types of fats. And I went into this dialogue in my head. I'm like, my third grade biology teacher who was explaining why everything on the food tray at lunch was made of bread. You know, it's like, there's no fat in the school lunch today. It's like, there's also no nutrition.
Have you ever seen the show Alone?
Yeah.
That's like the number one thing. It's like their most prized possession is if they can get fat.
Fat and protein.
Yeah.
Exactly. Carlene says he's a daily listener of Dave at X22. He and LTAWK are great. I don't know the LTAWK. I don't listen to X22 very often. Back when X22 was launching, we were launching.
Yeah.
So we were in there was a moment there where our audience and X22 audience were the same size audience.
Yep.
In fact, probably some crossover listeners. I got accused of being a Q person because I actually found the Q news in the news without looking at Q. But X22 did a really good job of avoiding the censorship regime by, instead of saying Q, he would say intelligence insider. And he kind of constantly did this elusive language that prevented him from getting hit by the censors, which allowed him to grow and grow and grow. And then at a certain point, his show was big enough that he started getting like Devin Nunes and getting real guests. And at that point, now your show is a news-making show.
Right, it's undeniable.
Yeah, it's undeniable. But he definitely sells some hopium, no doubt about that. Which, no huge problem.
No.
Okay, so yesterday in Seattle, there was an organized anti-ICE protest. So they got together and some American flags in good old-fashioned, spin on the flag as it's burning. So this protest in Seattle, it was mostly peaceful except for the flag burning part. And it went on for about 2 hours. I'll mute it on my end. So you can see here, you've got Ninja Turtle out walking. They always bring the furries, a ball of ice, nice big sign, and no big deal there. However, up in Minnesota, they had a similar organized protest going on, and a very tragic event happened. A protester / obstructionist was shot. So you're going to want to keep your eye on this vehicle right here. There's this officer, and there's another officer that comes around the front. Most people miss that part. Who's been obstructing ice all morning? Okay, did you see that?
Yep.
So this officer right here is directly in front of the vehicle. Push off and shoot, and he killed her right there on the spot. So she goes in, runs into that tree. Stuff is running. So this video, there's another video coming from the other angle. It's not worth showing because it's off in the distance, but you can clearly see this ICE officer is directly in front of the vehicle when she hits the accelerator. He shoots. She continues her turn, avoids clipping him. The shot came right through the front window. So a lot of people said he shot her through the side window, didn't have to shoot her. Shot came right through the side window. Now, this kicked off a firestorm. If you were paying attention on social media, you saw the seeds being planted for another George Floyd type event going on here, which is in the neighborhood of George Floyd. Okay. This is Representative Dan Goldman and his take on the ICE officer who fatally shot this protester.
Invading our cities, using excessive force lawlessly with new agents without proper training. And sadly, this was not unexpected, but it is egregious. It was an outright murder. And the fact that the administration is trying to defend the ICE officer when everyone can see with their own eyes that that car was trying to get away because it still turned away from the officer after she was shot in the head. So the fact that they are arguing,
which to me means nothing because she also sped off down the street and hit a light pole. I think shot in the head, hold on the wheel. That's my opinion. Okay.
That somehow this is domestic terrorism, much less an attack on ICE, is preposterous. This officer not only needs to be fired and suspended, but based on the video, he needs to be charged with murder.
Okay. So as a J6er, I have lived through 5 years of people justifying Robert Byrd or Michael Byrd, the shooter of Ashley Babbitt, and similar thing. Well, I just shot her through the window. Listen, man, we support law and order. And when you got dirty cops, you got to go after them. Okay. Yes. Do a full investigation on this. Take a look at it. Kristi Noem preliminarily has already done this. It's pretty obvious in the footage what was going on there. This woman had been obstructing ICE all day long and then eventually got to the point where she was going to be detained and went to flee and took, pointed the car in the direction of an officer and hit the gas.
She then proceeded to weaponize her vehicle and she attempted to run a law enforcement officer over. This appears as an attempt to kill or to cause bodily harm to agents, an act of domestic terrorism. The ICE officer, fearing for his life and the other officers around him and the safety of the public, fired defensive shots. He used his training to save his own life and that of his colleagues. He was treated at a local hospital, has been released, and is now with family. I encourage the American people at this point in time to pray for him, but also to pray for the deceased's family and her loved ones. Today alone in this country, there have been 4 different domestic terrorist attacks on federal officers by the ramming of vehicles. 3 of them happened here in Minneapolis.
So just yesterday alone, this ramming vehicles into ICE officers has become the thing, right? That's the way that you create this plausible deniability around your protest. I was in my car and, you shot me when I was driving away or whatever the case is. Listen, I remember when I was getting my driver's license and Frazier, John Atakis, you're gonna recognize this. You used to always tell me, the vehicle is a deadly weapon. I'm not going to give you a 2-ton weapon until you're fully ready to drive it and understand that it's a 2-ton weapon, right? Well, yeah, I mean, you got these adults driving around in these cars. You can't have a police officer standing in front of your vehicle and rev your engine. And if you're in gear, oh my goodness, you are probably going to get shot. And it doesn't matter if it's an ICE officer, a local sheriff's deputy, or a local police department officer. If he's in front of your vehicle and you rev your engine, you're probably going to get shot.
Hey, man, if I'm in front of your car.
Yeah, if I'm in front of your car on a Monday through Friday when I'm packing, you might get shot. Okay. Now, if you look here in another point of your ideology, right, and your lack of reason, Representative Nadler, ICE murdered an American citizen and legal observer, Congresswoman Sarah Jacobs. ICE just murdered a legal observer, Khair National. This is the Muslim group. Legal Observer, California Endowment. Legal Observer, Ed Krasenstein, biggest scam on the internet. And Legal Observer, the New Republic. Legal Observer.
What is this all about?
This is about this legal observer that got shot in her car.
What is in the hell is a legal observer?
Apparently, if you're obstructing ICE, you're a legal observer.
Oh.
That's the point here.
This
is a new word being introduced into the lexicon to create confusion. Instead of an obstructionist, instead of someone that is a protester or a provocateur, now they're legal observers.
Oh,
okay.
Because now it's legal.
Because now, well, you have a right to First Amendment and protest, and so you're legal observer. So Hakeem Jeffries had this to say about it.
There's no evidence that has been presented to justify the shooting of an unarmed woman, resulting in her unnecessary death. Kristi Noem, the so-called Secretary of Homeland Security, is a stone-cold liar who has zero credibility on this issue or on any other issue. And what we need, as I believe the governor has indicated, is a full and complete investigation. This rogue ICE agent who pulled the trigger should be criminally investigated to the full extent of the law, including for demonstrating a depraved indifference to human life.
What are we supposed to do with retards like this? I mean,
no, man.
Let's just think about this for a second. What if the guy didn't pull the trigger and just let himself get run over? What would the conversation be like then?
Good question, man. Good question. What would the conversation be like then? Well, then
would there be any sympathy for the injured officer? No.
What ends up happening if he doesn't pull the trigger, eventually they'll burn down a police precinct, right? Which happened in Minneapolis just 5 short years ago, or like in Seattle where they took over the East Precinct in downtown Seattle and created Chad's Chop right out the front doors of a police station, right? How was that possible? Because they didn't pull the trigger when the obstruction started. They gave ground until pretty soon they weren't cops. You're running away with your badge and your gun. You're not a cop. You're just a fleeing militiaman at that point. Okay. Now, again, into the zeitgeist. Facts don't win wars. Narratives do. When it came to George Floyd, the narrative that he was murdered in cold blood got way farther, more traction than that he had a drug overdose on fentanyl.
I'm sorry. I got to bring it up again. What are we going to do with retards like Hakeem Jeffries or this other guy that was describing the incident? The first guy we showed.
Goldman.
What's that?
Goldman.
Yeah. He's like, oh, these guys should be charged with murder. And it's like, you guys are trying this guy in public on live TV when you don't have the facts and you're just pushing the narrative that you want to push. When are we going to stop allowing? Is this just free speech?
It's the age of unreason. And yeah, it is free speech. Let's listen to what a fellow protester, right? One of these activist women who has been making quite a bit of going around and blocking ICE in Minneapolis. Okay. Now, I'm going to pay attention. She's in her, I don't know, not a bedroom. It's clearly set up just for her to be able to have a whole bunch of shoes. Looks kind of spendy.
Looks like a laundry room, maybe.
Nice house. Okay, yeah. Nice house.
All right, you guys, I just watched the video of the woman in Minneapolis. Don't go watch it, okay? If you don't think you can handle it.
Okay, because then you might see that the cop was in front of the car. So don't go watch it. Just take my word for it.
It is the most frightening thing I have seen in a long time. This woman was driving away in her car and they put their weapon in there and hit her in the face multiple times. This is not right. This was not self-defense. This was an execution. I am shocked because only a few weeks ago, I was driving around this town that I live in Charlotte, doing very similar things. looking for ICE agents, trying to prevent them from kidnapping people off the street. And there was a lot of other people out there doing that on a daily basis, as is our right to drive around the streets of our city.
Legal
It's
observer
frightening right now. Please be peaceful in your protests and don't give them any excuse, because it doesn't look like they need any right now. I cannot believe that they just took this woman's life, a U.S. citizen, for no.
I felt the same way after J6 about Ashley Babbitt, man.
Okay, so I just want to talk
Different
about
situations.
This. I do want to talk about this for a minute. I got a few things on my mind. So, if you want to go out and drive around on your streets, that's fine. Stay out of their way. That is the law. You can't obstruct whatever they're doing, whatever their actions are doing. So that's number one for this lady. The second thing is,
put the camera on you.
Oh, sorry. People need to understand that this woman in the car was harassing them all day. Okay, so that doesn't give them the right to shoot her. But when she is going to be detained, she cannot move that car, period. She's got to put in park, get out.
The rules are the same for every traffic stop. Exactly. You've been detained.
Yes.
Until that cop says you are free to go.
Yes.
You do not move that car.
And that other police officer is in front of the vehicle. That vehicle is a deadly weapon. When it moves like that, it is a deadly weapon. He is defending himself, period. Now, there is an argument to be made that cops know vehicles are deadly weapons and they get in front of them. That's the only argument that can be made in her defense. But she has no defense for that because she's being detained. She can't move. She can't flee. When you're fleeing, all of a sudden now you're probably another felony.
Yeah.
And it's completely justified. That shooting is totally justified in my mind.
Unfortunately,
that's
the reason we give the cops the badge and guns, right?
Right.
Is unfortunately, this strikes me as the most difficult topic, because on one hand, I want law and order. On another hand, I want mercy. On one hand, I want the law executed perfectly, but I also think that people have to comply. If you get pulled over, don't run. Right.
Right. And ICE is not out there willy-nilly just pulling people off the streets for no reason. Just stay out of their way and let them do their job.
Yeah. Now, this is one of her fellow protesters that was actually out with her during the day as they were, going around following ICE and obstructing ICE.
They clearly wanted her out of there because she was the main car leading the protest, is my understanding. I talked to another guy who was driving behind her, but she was very successful in blocking traffic. She was doing what she was set out to do, and so they wanted to get her the hell out of there. Yeah.
So it looked like she was impeding ICE vehicles.
Definitely, yeah. Okay. That was her goal. They clearly wanted her.
That was her goal, and that's what she'd been doing all day. So when the officer comes up and pulls on the door, that's just like any other. You're being arrested. Mm-hmm. Like she was getting arrested at that moment, and that might have been. I've been there, bro. Mm-hmm. I've been arrested now more than once. Okay? So I know the feeling of when you hear the handcuffs come out from their little holster thing,
click, click.
And you're like, shit, it's not going to be the night for me. You know what I mean? Because once the handcuffs go into their hands, they have an obligation to slap them on you, no matter the tussle or the fight.
Yep.
Right? If you go running, they will chase until they get you, even on some little thing like not presenting your ID.
Yep.
Right? If you obstruct, resist, they just assume there's drugs in your car. They just assume you're hiding something else.
Just
now,
comply.
The timing of this, what was the clip we played earlier? Tim Waltz saying we're at war. Okay. And then you have this incident happen. They've been rallying the troops, the protesters, to come out and protest. Tim Waltz continues on his little press conference tirade about this.
And from here on, I have a very simple message. We do not need any further help from the federal government. To Donald Trump and Kristi Noem, you've done enough. There's nothing more important than Minnesotan safety. I've issued a warning order to prepare the Minnesota National Guard. We have soldiers in training and prepared to be deployed if necessary. I remind you, a warning order is a heads up for folks. And these National Guard troops are our National Guard troops. They're teachers in your community. They're business owners. They're construction professionals. They are Minnesotans. Minnesota will not allow our community to be used as a prop in a national political fight. We will not take the bait. We will continue to update you, Minnesota, as we get more information.
Okay, let's get a little dose of reality here.
Sounds like he's laying some bait.
Shantini says, we use X22 to fall asleep. Well, I'm glad that you use the peasant's perspective to wake up. Okay.
That was perfect.
So yes. Birkenbane says, okay, no money to help you, your schools, or anything. No more Fed help. Yes, that's what Donald Trump said to Minnesota. This is deadly serious here. If you go back and look at the Civil War, in prison, I had to watch a Civil War documentary. It's kind of interesting. But one of the things that when the journals of like people that were there was a lot of, well, I don't know if we're going to go to war and I don't know if this is going to escalate. People don't want to take up arms. You'll always have your rabble rousers that want to, overthrow the government for every little thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for most part, what the Declaration of Independence says, where people will endure quite a bit before they want to go change the whole thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tim Waltz just said that the state of Minnesota is preparing a specialized National Guard troop that are their people in order to combat federal law enforcement officers in the state of Minnesota. What time is it, Ron?
I'm not sure.
Are we on the cusp of not just a cold civil war, not just a tough political fight, not just, we're trying to decide the politics of American policy? Or are we on the verge of an actual hot war between states and the federal government?
I don't know.
Are we going to see
the kind of things I don't like to talk about?
And uniformed soldiers and law enforcement officers lining up in the street, one being paid by a state entity and one being paid by a federal entity, fighting over control of we the people?
I wonder if they're going to set up guard posts at their visitor center. And
the whole point of our Constitution was to diffuse power to the point that no one person or one entity could fight over control of we the people. Because ideally, we the people had our guy at the town council and the county council and the water board and the state legislature and the state governor and the federal, and we vote different. I mean, I remember your wife being one time, I always vote back and forth on the ticket, right? Throw people up in order to create the gridlock, which creates stability for us because things don't change very fast. So we can plan our lives out, right? Makes perfect sense. But when power does concentrate in the state, in the feds, and now you've got a state and the feds, the state is dependent on the feds for funding, but the feds are dependent on the state for enforcement and application of their policies that's connected to the people. So the state becomes the middleman from the fed to the people. And now the state wants to control the people and the Fed also wants to control the people. Guys, they're fighting over us. We've allowed power to accumulate that a governor thinks he can train National Guard troops with military techniques to fight federal law enforcement officers on American streets. Just pump the brakes here for a second. Let's get back to some reason. I'm not so much of a team player, right or left, where I'm going to go, yeah, I'm in it for the feds. No, tell me the facts. What are the feds' objectives? What are the state's objectives? Right? I'm going to, if you're going to force me to pick a side in armed conflict, I'd like to know what I'm fighting for. Thank you very much. I don't think TDS is a big enough reason for me to take up arms against some law enforcement agent that's walking down my street, whether it's state or fed. If I'm a Fed fan, guess what? Now I'm at war with my state. If I'm a state fan, now I'm at war with the feds. We can't win. We, the people, don't win in this situation. They're fighting over us, and what they're going to end up ruling is the ashes of the towns we used to once live in. Look at the images we see from Ukraine with fiber optic cables covering whole towns. Every one of those fiber optic cables now looks like a spider web on top of a city was a drone with bombs attached to it.
Yeah, meant to kill somebody.
Flying through your neighborhoods. You don't think that can't happen here? You're naive. You're stupid. You're an idiot. You're retarded. They put me in prison for challenging an election. You don't think they'll put you in prison for supporting the federal government when you're behind enemy lines in a state like Washington or Minnesota or Oregon or California? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, we are on the verge of something that's pretty significant and it's pretty scary. This was Minnesota last night after this woman was, killed, and lots of
I'll just turn the sound off.
I'm just showing you, these are all people that support the quote state now, right? These are all people that showed up for a protest on behalf of Minnesota. Do you see how they're turning this into a fight for your land, fight for your rights, fight for your state kind of thing? Here's Jacob Frey, the mayor of Minneapolis.
We just showed some images of what appear to be large-scale peaceful protests tonight. In response, we have reporters on the ground who, of course, covering them. Tell us what the scale of those are. What are you hearing about what's happening on the ground? How did they originate?
Well, look, I won't speak to the work that those that have been organizing is doing right now. I won't speak.
That right there. I won't speak to the work that those that are organizing. So that big crowd you just saw show up, that was an organized crowd. Who organized it? I'm not going to talk about that. Who are the key suspects? George Soros, Reid Hoffman, Act Blue, a bunch of these, Kair, all of them have their hand in these organized protests, right?
To that, what I will say is there is a broad message that is going out, and that message is pretty clear, which is don't take the bait. We'll stand up for justice. We'll stand up for what is right. And we also recognize what the Trump administration is trying to do here, because it appears that they wanted a moment like this.
So
what does that mean? Don't take the bait. I'm not getting it.
Well, here's the bait. Here's the bait. The Minnesota forces are gathering. Let's just talk about it as it is. The Minnesota forces are gathering. They're becoming organized. The Somali fraud really riled up both the people on the conservative side of things that just want law and order and social services to be properly used for people in actual need. Then you've got the other side of things, the benefactors, all the Somalis, all the people that are on the dole, that are, on the payroll, that there's money involved. We're talking billions of dollars that goes into the economy. It all goes somewhere. It's not all sitting in one Somali guy's bank account. It's been distributed. Okay. So the benefactors, the patrons are like, whoop. So Minnesota is gathering its forces. They just did stop pays on all these things. Who's affected? You gather all your daycare workers, all your daycare parents, everybody that you've been given a cut to, bring them here, but don't take the bait. What's the bait? To cause violence too early. It's to cause violence too early. If you're not organized and you don't have enough forces, it'll get put down. The history of the United States is full of rebellions. The Whiskey Rebellion, the John Brown Rebellion. There's lots of these little rebellions. If you don't have enough people, it can get put down too fast. So here's Tim Walz and Jacob Frey saying the same thing. The message has been sent out. Don't take the bait. Show up, but don't take the bait yet.
Minnesotans, don't take the bait. Do not take the bait. Do not allow them to deploy federal troops into here. Do not allow them to invoke the Insurrection Act.
That's where we're at. This is Tim Walz saying we're at war with the federal government and telling the supporters that they're sending into the streets. Don't take the bait. You remember the Boston Massacre? The whole thing popped off because one shot got fired into the crowd of colonists and one person got killed. And the whole thing popped off from that. He's saying, don't take the bait, right? Don't go against them.
This is crazy language to be discussing for a politician to have saying over live TV. What
we are at war.
I know it almost can't get any more blatant.
As Ponyboy says, and again, this proves this is not a conspiracy show.
Right.
Okay. This is not a conspiracy show.
How long is he going to be allowed to lead this from the pulpit?
Forever, Ron, until someone takes him out or he steps down after an election and his, someone he approves takes the place that promises not to prosecute him. I don't know. This is power. This is raw power. Now Tim Walz's life is on the line. Jacob Frey's life is on the line. They might spend the rest of their lives rotting in prison if the worst of our suspicions are true. How far will they push you, the militiaman in Minnesota, to protect them? You don't think the history is not full of leaders, presidents, warlords, dictators, kings, monarchs, queens, you name it, sultans, imams, rabbis that are drunk on power, Catholic priests and bishops and cardinals drunk on power? You don't think they've sent out hit squads? You don't think they've sent out assassinations? You don't think they've done political assassinations? Of course.
I never thought about it.
This is where we're at. We're living in history every day. So he's like, don't take the bait because it's too early. We would get put down too early. The narrative is not on Minnesota's side yet, but get a couple more of these legal observers shot.
Oh boy.
That look like they're in cold blood, and hey, we might have something.
Not allow them to declare martial law. Do not allow them to lie about the security and the decency of this state. And let's let this investigation play itself out. Let's make sure we protect our neighbors. I encourage you to use your First Amendment rights and all of your constitutional rights, but do so in a peaceful manner. We'll gather back with you as soon as we gather more information that needs to be put out. But again, stay safe, Minnesota.
We'll let this investigation play out. Whose investigation, Ron? The state's? Is Keith Ellis going to charge an ICE agent with murder? And then you're going to have the DOJ come in and try to move it to a federal court? You see what I'm saying? Because it was against a federal officer on federal business, but it was on state jurisdiction ground. You're setting up a lawfare fight, a jurisdictional fight. They're like, let's do the Who? Is DHS doing the investigation or is the state?
I don't know.
This is, guys, all these fights, jurisdictional. They're fighting over we the people and who gets to control us and say what we can and can't do. And you know what I mean? Like, wake up. And it's been going on for a long time, right? And it reaches into the fraud element of this that's being exposed, which is causing Minnesota right now to be at the front center of this and all the welfare fraud and schemes like that. Guys, this is baked into the Democrats' policies and ideology, and it has been for a long time.
First Lady Jill Biden making a stop in Minnesota today to tout the country's investments in childcare. She was joined by Governor Walz and Health and Human Services Secretary Xavier Becerra during a visit this afternoon to the University of Minnesota. Biden highlighted major investments in childcare through the American Rescue Plan. Billions of dollars in funding have helped states like Minnesota keep healthcare and childcare providers open and boost pay for childcare workers during the pandemic. First Lady said,
even though they didn't have any kids in there and they weren't providing any actual health care, the First Lady made a special trip to Minnesota to celebrate all the money going in. And here we go 3 years later, and we find out all that money is just pure fraud.
Take that. If you look at,
so here's JD Vance talking about this. Does America have a Somali problem?
If you look at the amount of fraud in the welfare system, according to the statistics I've seen, 85% of Somalians who are in the United States, legal and illegal, are collecting some form of welfare benefits. So that's not to disparage the other 15%, but when you're at 85% of a population that is collecting welfare, that suggests that we have really done something wrong with regards to vetting. And that's the fundamental issue. Even if there's no fraud, 85% collecting welfare is way too many damn people collecting welfare, getting rich off the American taxpayer while a lot of Americans struggle. That's unacceptable. What's going on in Minneapolis, I think, is actually representative of a broader fraud scheme that we're going to see all over the country. We're going to see it in California. We're going to see it in other places, too, where people get rich from the American taxpayer. The Somalian fraud, for example, daycare fraud. You've got Americans, we've got programs set up to make it easier for Americans to get their kids in daycare so they can have proper child care. You take that money and you siphon it off to Somalian fraudsters. That's a double theft. Number one, that means a lot of American families can't afford their child care. Number two, that means a lot of American taxpayers are being fleeced. It's totally unacceptable. I believe, Jesse, we're going to have some very big announcements on this stuff in the next couple of days. I don't want to get ahead of the president on anything, but we believe that there is a nationwide fraud ring that's rooted in rooted in illegal aliens and others taking advantage of the American welfare system. We're going to get to the root of it, and anybody who's involved is going to get prosecuted. If you look,
which could be, I mean, you just saw Jill Biden fly in to meet with Tim Walz. Look at all the money we're going to give to your state for daycare and Medicaid. And now we know it's mostly going down the toilet. And we know, as Trump has said, New York, Illinois, California, it's going to be worse. So all the talk about Somali being the worst, you got some other states that are on that list, including Washington State. Our new communist mayor in Seattle, Katie, was asked, are you looking into any of this Somali daycare situation? And she gave a pretty straightforward answer. Look at her face when she says it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fear in the Somali community is real. The fear in immigrant communities are real. So we're taking that very seriously.
Along those lines, have you asked anyone to follow up on the fraud claims, either to the Department of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs or SPD?
No. Yeah.
No, I don't want to offend that Somali community. Feminine energy, yesterday's show, right? It's a feminine energy. Now, in all of the stuff that's been going on here, right, Venezuela takes center stage. Venezuela represents so many things in this larger ideological picture. not only do you have the realpolitik of international stuff going on with oil and the petrodollar and energy and nation building, but then you have an ideological battle. Remember, China is still communist red, okay? and there's lots of other countries, the EU, many other countries have taken this socialist tack. Like they are socialist countries still experimenting with the final stages of capitalism is kind of the way you look at a lot of these European countries. Canada, Mexico, a lot of South America has taken this socialism bend, and it's gotten bad inside a lot of these countries. Even countries like in Europe that have high quality of living, they're getting, better quality of crime, I guess you could say, to go with it, right? I mean, Sweden's becoming the rape capital of the world. It used to be one of the safest places in the world. Apparently, it's not very safe now if you're a white Swedish woman walking around in certain no-go zones, okay? So this Venezuela thing highlights the failures of socialism, communism, and collectivism on society as a whole. It highlights the failure of collectivism and socialism in preventing things like actual drug cartels from rising to power. Okay, it highlights so many failures of the collectivist ideologies in all of them, because they're all at play in one way or another in Venezuela. Even Islam has a foothold in Venezuela through Hamas and Hezbollah coming down, and Iranians coming down and getting trading, and the whole Red-Green Alliance. It's tied up in a nice little bow right there in Venezuela. This woman right here is a refugee from Venezuela that came to America. It's important to hear from actual people who have left Venezuela, who have family there, on their perspective on the United States coming in and taking over. Because at a certain point, just like in the Declaration of Independence, sometimes you need some strongmen. You need some people to come in and help to fix your problems. It's just the way of the world, right?
Is there anything else that you would like to add that maybe you haven't said that would be really important?
I talked to my brother this morning that lives in Venezuela, and I asked him those words. I said, I'm having the opportunity to talk to somebody about the situation in Venezuela. If you had the opportunity to talk, what do you want me to say? And he said, I want them to know the truth. In here, we don't have a future. When we work, we don't work for a home. We don't work for a car. We don't work for future plans. I would love to have children, and I can't. Not because I physically can't, but because we cannot afford it. We work for survival, and sometimes that doesn't even happen. So the real reality is, as long as America continues on help, there may be a future. I may be able to go and see my brother again. Hey, it's so strong. I have constant nightmares that I am ripped away from my husband and I'm sent back at Venezuela, and I'm terrified of what they are going to do with me. And those are nightmares because I love my country, but how can I live in it? How can I survive in it? There is not even the chance for survival. I had to leave my country. I had to cross the border with a 1-year-old to Brazil. I had to hide my son in a car because the military police wanted to take us. Because we were trying to leave the country, they wanted to force us to stay.
I want to highlight this. For Americans, we read about this stuff with East Berlin and trying to get out of Berlin. And it's this thing that we conquered, right? We conquered. We won the Cold War. We conquered it. Nobody thinks that way anymore. Everybody knows totalitarianism, dictatorship, communism.
If you're old enough, you remember Mr. Gorbachev tear down this wall.
Yeah. So we think that we kind of overcame this. Not at all. It got new legs after the wall came down because they could operate in the shadows. They didn't have the failing Soviet Union to highlight it. Now you've got rising China, and you've got people going, well, China's figured it out. I mean, sure, they killed 200 million of their own people, but look, they got a larger middle class than they did before. Look at all those big cities they have. Half of them are empty, right? Because they're work programs. They're not actual cities for people to live in and invest in. But either way, she's talking about this. She's not my age. She's younger. This is now. This is in the 2000s. This is in this decade. People are fleeing what we would consider countries that we want to go vacation in. Venezuela's got great beaches. There's relics and ruins all over in the jungle to go look at, right? Let's go study some anacondas. Like Venezuela's on the list of countries that's like not supposed to be scary to go to. You know what I mean? It's like Brazil. Sure, we don't go vacation in the favela, but we can go visit Brazil, right? They share our Western values. They'll respect my life. This decade, she had to flee a socialist country that people like Bernie Sanders touted as being wild success stories for socialism. She had to flee with her 1-year-old and lives in fear of going back for what they will do to her. And we're over here going, well, you don't want to put boots on the ground in Venezuela. Of course we don't. We don't want to put boots on the ground anywhere.
I left my country with just the clothes I was wearing and a little bit of diapers and milk that I had left. Don't you dare telling me that this is not a reason for celebration. When I first come into the United States, I cried and had to turn around to my husband and ask him to please help me to open the shower because I didn't even know how to open the shower. When I walked into Walmart and I saw so many options to eat, I couldn't believe myself. Our reality is different. We want to live. And you guys have everything in this country, more than you could ever imagine. And I just wish that you could love it a little bit more and respect it a little bit more. Because if I had to give my life for America, I would. Because my family, I can have dreams and hopes and plans of a future, dreaming of a home, of a car, and all these silly things. Because of the United States. And whatever they do, they can destroy our body, they can destroy our history, they can destroy everything that they have done. They destroyed the Bolivar, they took 5 zeros from our, they can destroy anything, but...
That's coming for us, by the way. They just took 5 zeros off their money. I got $1 million saved up. No, you don't. Now you got $1,000 saved up.
What is in here? What is in here? The things that we lived through, that we survived through. They will never take it away from us. And there will be a day that as a family, I'm going to go and hug them all again. And we're going to say that we make it. And that's because real men in uniform went and took that man away. And that is the truth. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Here, let me.
Yesterday on the show, we talked about the crisis of manhood. And after World War I and World War II, men around the world looked around and said, we almost ruined this place. And they really abdicated their responsibility and they invited women, and which is fine. I'm not, not against women being in decision-making abilities necessarily. But we saw a huge turn. But now we're seeing the same carnage that we were trying to run away from pre-World War II. The world we were trying to recreate without all that, we're seeing it play out.
In our backyard.
In our backyards. You don't think this can happen here? It can happen here in a blink of an eye. One bad regulation for farmers and there's not enough protein. One food pyramid and all of a sudden we're eating GMO food every day. You know what I mean? Industrial waste product is sold as canola oil. It can happen so fast. Our dollar could be devalued to the point to where they knock off 5 zeros just after the government pays its debts because they could just print an extra, $3 or $4 trillion and just make the debt more affordable for the government and make it impossible for you to ever buy anything, right? All of this stacks up. This is why Trump going in and doing Venezuela the way he's doing it, I think gives it a fighting chance. Maduro had to go. When she said real men in uniforms and guns came and took that bad man away, that's what real men do. What are the facts? What are the rules? Okay, now we have to enforce them. Now it comes down to rebuilding Venezuela. Energy, oil, and money. That's what it's all about. So how are they going to do it? They're going to use the oil that Venezuela has to help rebuild it.
Put that blockade on Venezuela. They're still producing oil. They can't ship it to the world. So it's in floating storage in tankers, mostly illegal, sanctioned gray market tankers, and it's on onshore storage in Venezuela. So we are in dialogue with the Venezuelan government, saying let's work together to fix Venezuela. We got rid of the head of the gang, Nicolas Maduro and his wife. They're in prison. Work with us. Let's improve your country together. So we're going to now allow those tankers to flow. We're going to market that crude. They fully understand this. They're our partner in doing that. We're going to allow that crude to be sold so that revenue can be generated, but then we're going to control the flow of that revenue to make sure it's going for productive reasons in Venezuela.
Let me be more direct. Is there a narrative in Venezuela that you are stealing our oil?
I have not heard that narrative. I've seen celebrations in the street and Libre Venezuela out. I think people are thrilled. They've lived under, between Chavez and Maduro, 26 years in a brutal dictatorship that's only devastated that country and hurt the whole hemisphere. So I've not heard that narrative at all. And of course, if it's that narrative's out there, it's untrue. We're just controlling the flow of revenues from their oil. So
that's right. Seems logical. JD Vance continued to explain this, and through this leverage, they're going to allow Venezuela to rebuild itself.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Taking out a dictator in Venezuela, how does that help the average American?
Well, a few things, Jesse. First of all, what it means is we're going to be able to control the incredible natural resources of Venezuela, which is good for America in a few ways. Number one, it allows us to put leverage on our enemies. Number two, it makes sure that if Americans need high quality, low cost power, we're always going to have access to it. And then the third thing is it does demonstrate American military excellence, which makes people afraid to cross us in the future. Some of the best ways that you maintain the peace is to make it clear that you carry a very strong sword if you ever need to use it. So I think it's good for us in a lot of different ways. We also have to remember, Jesse, this is in our neighborhood. This is not Iraq. This is not 7,000 miles away. This is in our neighborhood. If we cannot follow the basic principle, which has been a cornerstone of American foreign policy for 200 years, that we control our neighborhood, a lot of bad people are going to take advantage of it. What the President of the United States said is, in our neighborhood, the United States calls the shots. That's the way it's always been. That's the way it is again under the president's leadership.
We just strong men doing what has to be done. Marco, Beijing is big mad about this. Okay. So we don't often hear China's opinion on things. We have to kind of surmise it or hear from a few experts. But here is Chinese Minister of Foreign Affairs gave a speech on this yesterday. They're big mad because a lot of this Venezuelan oil that's been sanctioned has been going to China. And now China, if they want it, they're going to have to buy it from the U.S. And that money isn't going to be funneled back to whatever corruption ring they've got going on, right? Beijing condemns the U.S. for rerouting Venezuelan exports from China to
the United States brazenly resorted to the use of force against Venezuela and demanded that America First be applied when Venezuela disposes of its own oil resources. This is a typical act of bullying, a serious violation of international law, and a grave infringement on Venezuela's sovereignty that also severely undermines the
says the people who break international law every single day
rights of Venezuelan people. China.
Which, by the way, this is classic communist weaponizing your virtue against you. Well, you're breaking international law. Fuck you, China. Excuse me, Dad. Sorry about that. Screw you guys. I have a video of you ramming a Filipino boat. You know what I mean? You break international law every day. Every day. That's like the trope. China's never honored one agreement they've ever signed. You cannot do business with China. So when she says that, it's rich. Well, you're not following international law. And you have standing? Holy cow.
Strongly condemns this. I would like to stress that the legitimate rights and interests of China and other countries in Venezuela must be protected. The United States has long imposed illegal unilateral sanctions on Venezuela's oil sector and has recently brazenly used force against Venezuela, dealing a severe blow to the country's economic and social order, and also threatening the stability of global production and supply chains. China has already issued strong condemnation in this regard. I would like to reiterate that cooperation between China and Venezuela is a cooperation between sovereign states and is protected by international law and laws of both countries.
Okay. As a political scientist, the reason that the Northern troops won the Civil War and the reason why the United States won the Revolutionary War was because they got help from foreign countries. Tim Waltz is telling Minnesotans, don't do anything quite yet, right? Just don't take the bait. Build forces, grow, grow, grow. There's an organizing effort to get people into the streets. If it gets hot in Minnesota, what are the odds that China backs Minnesota and Governor Waltz, the guy who's taken 30 trips there?
Wow.
You're living through history, ladies and gentlemen. Don't think for 1 second that if things get any worse domestically, that you won't see outright foreign actors, foreign states whether directly or indirectly, funneling money and guns to local state militias to fight federal law enforcement officers and or troops.
Didn't we have a very early episode that covered a very large sum of cash that went to the Biden family from China?
Yeah, 1.5 billion went into his hedge fund to trade around and make commissions. Yeah, there's a lot of money involved here. Plenty of money to fund local militias and knock out substations and cause a lot of havoc. You're
Wonderful.
living through history. You think it was a little crazy when those 13 colonies showed up in France looking for money, or John Adams went up to Netherlands looking for a loan? Some upstart, states of Britain, colonies of Britain, all of a sudden they want funding. And guess what? They got it. You don't think Tim Walz can't send an emissary to China and be like, hey, fund us, help us. I can't load up with any more M16s because my source at the federal government won't provide them because I'm arming a state National Guard troop that is really my private militia. Please send some AK-47s. Okay, this is actually how it works and plays out. So I'm giving you the peasant's perspective a little ahead of time. Things can get bad quick. And you're seeing all the words being said that later in the future, when someone like me is sitting in prison watching a documentary on the Civil War, we will forget the lead up and all the things that happened that got to the point where the Constitution of the people were willing to sever ties with their government. Does that make sense? And that's what's happening in Minnesota. Don't take the bait. Rage, rage, rage until you can get 50+1, a Constitution of the people to shift against law and order, against whatever Trump's doing. Take the TDS, it's not even taking the TDS vaccine. It's take the disease. Okay? When it comes to Venezuela, there's a huge tool here. If this is truly the head of the snake or close to it, right, by chopping it off and controlling the money, it's already starting to work, according to Marco Rubio.
Yeah, I know. They're going to say that. I used to be a senator, too. That's what you always say when it's the other party. The bottom line is we've gone into great detail.
The question was, they say that you've gone into Venezuela and you don't have a plan. He's like, yeah, they all say that. I was in the Senate, too. You don't have a plan.
I told him about the planning. We described it to him. In fact, it's not just winging it. It's not just saying or speculating it's going to happen. It's already happening. Like the oil arrangement that we've made with PDVSA on their sanctioned oil that they can't move. Understand, they are not generating any revenue from their oil right now. They can't move it unless we allow it to move because we have sanctions, because we're enforcing those sanctions. This is tremendous leverage. We are exercising it in a positive way. The president described it last night. Secretary will have more to say on it today, who was involved in running this portfolio. And we feel very positive that not only will that generate revenue that will be used to the benefit of the Venezuelan people, and we're ensured that that's what the case is, but it also gives us an amount of leverage and influence and control over how this process moves forward.
That's really good. By armadaing up in the Gulf of America, they've set themselves up to be able to really control things. Okay, so this is our new friend, the new housing director in New York, Cece, I guess her name is. And this is our new mayor in New York, Mondami. They were on this Zoom call a little while ago. And this is his new housing director talking about how we really want to make real estate worth less.
So, and, the follow-up question to that is, what would a socialist housing policy for New York City, one that's presumably replicable in other parts of the country, what would that look like? What would a socialist urbanism look like? And then, from that, we can open up that conversation in the context of the mayor's race in Albany.
Yeah. So what I would do is I would, first of all, you need to expand rent controls to cover smaller buildings. And that needs to happen in Albany, but there's also more that the mayor could do.
Who's being covered now? What kind of buildings are being covered now?
Buildings with 6 or more apartments.
Oh, 'cause in my head, I'm like, I thought already, because I lived in a unit with 8 apartments and it was rent controlled. And to me, that was already a small building. But you're saying even, like individual, single family homes,
or like
2-family homes. And,
yeah, like the neighborhoods as Zoran's describing in Queens, like or Bay Ridge. Half of the city's housing stock is in like 4 to 6 unit apartment buildings that were once affordable homeownership opportunities for immigrants and are now overwhelmingly being bought up by organizations like Blackstone or like whatever, or even like medium-sized slumlords. So rent control, and they need to be rent controlled. And the reason why they need to be rent controlled is not because like rent control is inherently socialist, but because rent control limits the speculative value of the land. Like our goal is to have the housing actually be worthless to some degree, right? Like we don't want this to be an investment vehicle. We want it to be like long-term stable homes. We don't need people to become millionaires off their homes. So that's the first thing that I would do. And then the second thing that, you know, socialists need to really think about is how are we exploring models, and there's some transitional models, mutual housing associations, community land trusts, community opportunity to purchase, like mechanisms to municipalize more and more of the housing stock. And like if you have public housing over here, which New York City is blessed to still have a great deal of, private homeownership over here, what like there's a lot of policy mechanisms that can take everything that's on like the right and like move it towards, I'm on a podcast, so like I can't believe I'm visualizing this, but move things in the spectrum to municipalize it. And there's lots of things that New York City has done over 100 years to do that, and we could do it again.
Community land trust, I see Zoran reacted to that.
So Mandami goes on to say, basically, I've learned everything I learned from housing from her.
Oh,
which based on what you just learned is nothing.
Well, my comment was going to be, wow, that's a lot of brain power.
All public housing, slums. You're talking about the slums.
Well, the whole time,
Projects.
Mandami just sat there and didn't say anything.
Yeah, well, at the end he chimes in, but we just want to make real estate worthless. We don't want it to be an investment opportunity. Nobody should get rich or become a millionaire. The problem is all the people that are working that you're trying to put in the house, the best thing you could do for them is allow them to become rich from the house.
Yeah.
Right. And rent controls, when she said it prevents the speculative market, it also prevents development of new projects because there's no speculative market.
And the whole thing that she's trying to kill is the American dream.
It is.
It's crazy.
On behalf of the people. On behalf of the people, this amorphous blob that doesn't know what it wants.
The collective.
On behalf of the people, we're going to make sure you, the individual, doesn't have a housing opportunity, but we'll give you free rent. I just had this discussion with Jen on Peasants Pod Living Room. If anybody wants to join the living room, you got to reach out to me privately, figure out a way to get a hold of me, and I can add you to the Telegram chat. But it's because it's a very intimate group. It's literally the living room.
Yep.
And she was asking about, you know, if they give you food and housing, is it still slavery? And I responded with a simple answer. If you don't have a choice to leave, if your food and housing is provided, but it's not voluntary for you to leave, that is slavery.
Duh.
And I was like, having food and housing and a nice place to sleep at night, right, is not freedom. That is not the objective. You find your purpose and your happiness in the pursuit of happiness, not in the accomplishment of it. Does that make sense? It's like if I could take you on a helicopter and just drop you at the top of Everest, it's not nearly as rewarding as if you hiked up it. You see what I'm saying? It's in the climb, the pursuit, that we find our happiness. And that's where we find our choice. What you decide makes you happy differs from what I decide makes me happy. We both have a right to life, check. We both have a right to private property, check. And to what ends? To pursue your meaning of happiness, to find
like
your
that.
meaning and purpose, okay? When you take away someone's ability to choose, right? Some people might just want to go work in the factory 9 to 5, watch their football games on Monday nights, Thursday nights, and Sundays, and college sports on Saturdays and Tuesdays. Okay. So point is, you can watch football every day of the week if you want, work in that factory, live in your government provide houses, and die in government provide hospice. If that's your choice, go for it. If you find meaning and purpose in a small family that watches football together, go for it. Donald Trump found meaning in building big buildings with golden letters with his last name on it. Go for it.
Not for everybody.
Not for everybody. Does that make sense? But it's our choice, our ability to choose the life we want that makes us not slaves. Even if we do end up being debt slaves, that's our own choice. Okay. So that is the big thing. When you hear these socialists, they're just presuming that you'll become a slave. As soon as they can provide housing, childcare, medical care, a job, no matter what it is, they'll just presume you're happy. That's the China model. If we can just raise people out of abject poverty to a different form of poverty, but everybody's got, you know, a cell phone and a house, but no choices, that's poverty. Poverty comes from lack of choices. You know what I mean? So let's dig a little bit deeper. A couple things Donald Trump did yesterday to directly deal with the Mandami situation. Because remember, the socialists want to fix the housing crisis for the Zoomerwaffens, who are like, boomers got to die. I need their house. Okay. And when they say they got to die, they want them to age out. But the point is they want your house and they want your equity to go away so they can afford your house. So Donald Trump, one of the things he did that puts upward pressure on the housing market is he did a truth post yesterday that told BlackRock and other corporations, no more corporations or large buyers of single family houses.
Perfect.
So I don't know how that's going to fit out in executive order, legislation, but he's basically told Blackstone, not BlackRock, stop buying houses. So between deportations, maybe we can get some of those big companies out of the housing market. Maybe the next.
Well, it sounds like it won't affect them owning tenement houses or apartments or
single family,
multifamily.
Yeah, single family, sure. So that's really good. He also put out a pretty good little message yesterday. Let's read this here. So this is all United States defense contractors in the defense industry as a whole. Beware. While we make the best military equipment in the world, no other country comes even close. Defense contractors are currently issuing massive dividends to their shareholders and massive stock buybacks. Basically, they're taking federal contract money and they're just plowing it back into their business, not into any kind of infrastructure, but into their profits. At the expense and detriment of investing in plants and equipment, this situation will no longer be allowed or tolerated. Also, executive pay packages in the defense industry are exorbitant and unjustifiable, given how slowly these companies are delivering vital equipment to our military and or our allies. Salaries, stock options, and every other form of compensation are far too high for these executives. Defense companies are not producing our great military equipment rapidly enough, and once produced, not maintaining it properly or quickly. From this moment forward, these executives must build new and modern production plants, both for delivering and maintaining this important equipment and for building the latest models of future military equipment. Until they do so, no executive should be allowed to make in excess of $5 million, which, as high as it sounds, is a mere fraction of what they are making now.
Wow.
Additionally, the maintenance and repair of equipment once sold is far too slow and must be immediately enhanced. As president, I am demanding that maintenance be spot on time. Therefore, I will not permit dividends or stock buybacks for defense companies until such time as these problems are rectified. Likewise, for salaries and executive compensation, military equipment is not being made fast enough. It must be built now with dividends, stock buybacks, and overcompensation of executives rather than borrowing from financial institutions or getting the money from your government. Longer term, this is good for both executives and shareholders because it will be great for our country. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. We are in a situation where defense contractors charge so much money, and we have outsourced American safety and national security to essentially these independent contractors, right? Hey, we need jets. We'll train the guys to fly them, but we need you to make them. If they're taking profits and plowing it back into their businesses rather than making jets for delivery, we could have all the pilots in the world provided by we the people. And if, Raytheon or Lockheed can't produce the equipment, it's for nothing, right? So I think this is excellent here that Donald Trump is doing this. And a lot of people will say, well, isn't this like communist control of the economy? We're already there.
Well,
we're already there.
Look at it this way, people. This is a lot of jobs because if you got to build a new plant, holy smokes. Can you think about all the permits and all the concrete and all the steel?
It's common sense. Anybody whose objective is national security and a strong military, this is common sense. He also upped the spending from $1 trillion to $1.5 trillion.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's going to spend more money on national defense.
Yeah, he's going to inject some money into the local economies.
He wants results. Now, our good friend Lucky Palmer over at Andrew, where'd he go? Where'd Lucky Palmer go? Oh, I took Lucky Palmer out. But Lucky Palmer basically says, I'm down.
Yeah.
I'll pay myself less. I got to deliver faster. I'm down. So Andrew is, quickly becoming my favorite defense contractor.
Yeah, me too.
There is a possibility to have one. Pony Boy said over on YouTube a little while back, China is asshole. China is asshole.
That's exactly how I did.
All right. We're going to jump over to private now, and we're going to do a little bit of a dive into the new president of Mexico, who was the former VP, and what her family background is like. We're going to be talking a little bit more about Denmark, and then we're going to see a video that was released yesterday that's part of a lawsuit up in Pennsylvania. And this is election professionals openly talking about destroying ballots because they're not for the audit. Extra ballots that were discovered after this whole thing. So we're going to play that clip. So stick around in the private. We've got good 20 minutes over there that we'll be covering some of these other topics, and we'll talk to you guys again tomorrow. But before we leave, we want to encourage you guys to get some coffee.
Get your caffeine on.
Get your caffeine fix now.
Yeah, so I love this ad. Still haven't tried 1775 coffee? Now is your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped. Only 1,000 units. You're getting the bold, dark roast that hits hard, the smooth, medium roast, the vitality mushroom coffee for clean energy and laser focus. No crash. All single origin, small batch, toxin-free and mold-free. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. A frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's opinions. And a black 1775 tumbler. $170 worth of coffee and gear. For yours for $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rebel. Wonder if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something just like Rumble does.
All right. And before we leave as well, we got to throw down a raid. And I just sent you the link for that. We are sending you guys off before we head into private. Those of you that don't peel off with us into subscription only or private, we're sending you to the Laura Loomer fan club. She is live on scene with ICE and the ICE Border Patrol chief. And so go check that out and say hi to everybody in the chats over there for us. It's the Loomer fan club. Is it going?
No, not yet. I still got to get in here.
Oh, it just takes a minute. I think these raids are actually pretty cool. And as you guys have gone into a couple of these raids, we've had people come back and subscribe. So it does seem to have some effect.
Okay, here we go.
Boom. Okay, raid. Hello from the Peasants. Oh, I should probably just put this on the screen so you guys can see it. Yeah. Hello from the Peasants.
Oh.
Peasants. Support ICE and Border Patrol. And
those guys got such a tough job.
Yeah, seriously. It's like one of the most hated men in America. Half the country is going to think he's like head Gestapo leader there.
Yeah.
So looks like none of you guys have jumped over, but that's all right. Okay. Should we go ahead and jump into